I don't need to be here.
I'm waiting for the wins of the week.
All right, you got something?
Yeah, it's a
All right,
basic one, but it would have been catastrophic for the
kick us off on it.
gentleman.
Okay, it's okay that it's basic.
So last week I get a call. Well, I'm sorry, I did not get a call because I guess phone call did not come through, but I see a ticket from Rocket Cyber. Uh, and this guy started calling me and I was in meetings. So I didn't call him until like 4 hours later. Well, Rocket Cyber detected an installation of GoTo Resolve and it was labeled as remittance pound 56544, like a payment confirmation PDF .pdf.exe. It was an unattended installer of GoTo Resolve. So the gentleman with all these tariffs, it's a U.S. custom broker with all these tariffs going on. They're getting daily ACH payments from their customers in Mexico. This was coming from like PaySafe or some domain. I have the whole historical data there. But so he clicked on it, downloaded a PDF, clicked on it to open the PDF, and that installed GoTo Resolve. So when Rocket Cyber detected the hash was GoTo Resolve, but the name of the file did not match, they immediately isolated the machine. And if they would have not done that, he would have not been aware of this. And so two companies of his are my customers. One's a title company, and this is the U.S. custom brokerage. So can you imagine? And they use passwords saved on the browser. It would have been a nightmare for them. So that was a small type of incident, but a very big win.
Wow.
Enrique, quick question. Great, big one. Did you know they were doing browser passwords, like where they were storing them? Or are they,
We're
how'd that come about?
we are fully aware of it, and we've been trying to get them on password managers, and they don't. And I'm like, guys, you deal on financial transactions, and you need a password manager. And they just, I think after this, it might be an easier sell to get them to use password managers.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
even with that, here they would have been in trouble probably because unless you log out of your password manager, yeah, it would have been a nightmare. I don't think he knows the bullet he dodged.
Yeah, no kidding. It's so relevant. Chip wasn't with us last week, but I do want, hopefully we get we're going to go quick once we get through wins. And obviously we'll give Amanda time, but on this click fix thing, because I think it's possibly related on what's happening out there. This is really starting to kick up really big. But awesome win, Enrique. Um, who else? Who else has got something good? Can't can't just be Enrique.
Yeah. It's got to
Anyone
be
else?
more than a single good MSP story out there. Remember, it doesn't have to be a security win. It can be a customer win.
Oh,
I
then
got
I
a
have
quick
another
one.
one.
Got another
Can you hear
one
me?
too. All right.
Yeah,
Oh,
a partner that does Max and doesn't handle Azure reached out Thursday and asked me if I can help him out. So long story short, they signed a whole Azure environment, his customer, concrete company, on Monday. So we're deploying Azure VMs and Azure virtual desktops for them. So that was a very big win.
Nice. Anything with around Nerdio or just
100% we use Nerdio.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Good.
of course, you're plugging them into SaaS alerts and Rocket Cyber too, right?
Well, they're the managed service provider that asks for help handles all their other side of it, but that is on the radar. I told him, he asked me if he could consult with me on different security stacks, and I told him definitely, and SaaS alerts is definitely on there.
Awesome.
Good. Rich has got something.
Well, I was hoping Ben would take it so I could finish my salad.
Oh no, did you bring enough for everybody?
Okay. Um, so a couple days ago, we started seeing this application tied to authentication fails. I mean, it's apparently a decommissioned application from Windows in 2014. It's called Windows Live Custom Domains. And I asked Ben about it, and he checked the database, and there was a dramatic increase in these authentication fails, by by logarithmic scales. He had a graph that he showed me, and over the last 3 or 4 days, it's just jumped up to like coming from all over the place. 5 of our clients are just getting constant barrages of these authentication fails. His suspicion was that something, either an old app is being regurged for some type of attack, or maybe something is compromised. Hold on.
And Darren's getting a lot of them too.
Ben, you want to throw some color there?
So anyway,
Oh.
we're just keeping a watch on it right now, so we don't know what else to do about it.
Yeah, Ben, do you have some color on it?
Sure. So yeah, it's most of the events are login failures. It went from, I think it started about a week or so ago, and it started with maybe like 8,000 events, and it quickly skyrocketed up to usually about 1.5 million events per day of just repeated login failures, and it's kind of just brute force. There has been successful ones as far as guessing the passwords. There's also been a bunch of MFA failures that go along with that, of passwords that I guess were successful, and then they hit the MFA block and can get past that. But beyond that, the ones that have been completely successful, I haven't seen any events after the account has been, I'm not gonna say compromised, but yeah, whatever, and taken over, and so I haven't seen like mailbox forwarding rules being created or anything like that. I don't know if they're blasting out a bunch of emails or anything, but it's so recent that I haven't seen any sort of like negative events after the fact.
Ben, have we built an IOC for folks that they can plug that into their own respond rules?
Yeah, we can definitely get that situated. It's a really easy one too, that we can pretty much whip up pretty quickly. And the funny thing is, it's the same application ID pretty much across all the events. So it is the same application ID. It's not one that exists. I've Googled it. I've looked all over the internet, and it's not one that is like known as a. So I don't know that it's necessarily like an old app that's been compromised. I mean, anything's possible, but it is definitely the same application ID throughout the net. And there's a thread that's popped up on Reddit too, of people discussing seeing the same things.
Interesting. Chip, let me just throw something up here. This is obviously conjecture. That last week I talked about this click fix. I don't know if you heard about this. It's just this ongoing new for lack of a better word, type of threat where they're getting people to take actions through copying things. There's been click fixes with everything from CAPTCHAs to copying, pasting code. The thing I wanted to call out, and I just wanted to show you to get your thoughts, was, hold on, this part of it. So these malware campaigns, where is it here? Bear with me. I thought I had copied and pasted, but basically, is it here? No. Basically, there's over 100, I'm butchering this, but there's been 100 different applications that have been basically put into GitHub that they've recognized into these GitHub repositories. This most recent one was using this, targeted ads, right? These ads look like this. So again, Rich, I'm not sure if this is how it all happened. This is just, again, conjecture about how patient zero occurred and et cetera. But we're seeing like this incredible spike in these ads, and these ads are actually in the Google search as well, Chip. So these malware are actually in Google searches, and I'll try to find. I have the article up, but I'm just curious if this app that has seemingly been, out of date is one of these 100+ that is in this repository.
Could be. It's certainly a rational notion.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what we talked about last week. I just was bringing it back up of this massive spike. Steven, did you have something to kind of add to this color-wise?
Yes. Well, it's along the click fix line. We had a SEO poisoning drive-by ad for one of our clients that it was SEO poisoning. Clicked on the ad, and just immediately verification pop up saying, hey, click fix. Essentially exactly what the click fix is. Control V, control. Windows R, Windows Control V, and it was an SEO poisoning. It wasn't even. I mean, it was nothing that it wasn't an email or anything. It was very effective though, and it worked really quickly. But,
Yeah, this is like rampant right now. Where is it here? Just 1 second, guys, and I'll let you. Oh, here it is, Chip. I just want to show you this, and Steven. And then we'll turn to Andy, who's been patient. So take a look at this, Chip. It's like literally, so yeah, here it is. LastPass. So LastPass has a really good article out on it as well. And I'll share all these, but you're seeing like this campaign for $1,000 a month now on the dark web that you can buy impersonates more than 100 software solutions. So again, this could even go back to Enrique's, like where his started, like so and what was like I said, what's fascinating is where is it that these are showing up in Google search results. I was just trying to find that piece of it, like as hey, I need LastPass. Well, guess what? the malicious LastPass is in your Google search.
Yeah. It's even more interesting that two other things interesting to me here, Andrew. Number one, it's specifically going after Macs. Not specifically, but
this
an
particular
expansion of chasing Macs, let's put it that way.
Yes.
And number two, this is like the third sort of general story we've talked about in maybe a month or 5 weeks, 6 weeks involving GitHub. And I find it fascinating that when did Microsoft buy GitHub? 3 years ago? GitHub at one point was, nerdland and developers and kind of doing its own thing and certainly didn't seem to anybody like a security risk. But the fact that, like, I don't use GitHub. Like, even as a developer playing with my own projects, I won't go near it because I think it's become a dangerous playground. Like, people can put up anything they want there and there's nobody there validating whether or not the code that you're pulling down and maybe want to build and compile or whatever else, depending on the languages, is dangerous or not. Like it's up to you. So, it's a buyer beware kind of thing. You gotta be cautious. Like anything else on the internet, if it's offered for free, you better be suspicious.
Yeah. Andy, what do you got? You've been very patient.
Well, I'm just looking at this and thinking, goodness, we really need to have a way to block all this stuff from even accidentally getting triggered. And I don't know if you saw the news right before this call, but Microsoft has stopped providing some services to the Israeli Ministry of Defense because they were using Microsoft services to track the people that they wanted to kill.
Whoa, what?
Yeah. They're using
Is there an article in this somewhere?
Yeah, you pull it up right now. It literally was published about 5 minutes before the start of this. I'm just saying Microsoft, they're basically tracking Gazans is the way I would look at that, is they're going after Hamas. And I thought that was just amazing. But what this is bringing up for me is any minor misconfiguration we may have could then, with an exposure, could be exploited. And so we really have to have a way to perfect our processes. So, and by the way, it's been posted in the chat, the link from Anne. I just thought that was rather amazing that Microsoft actually took this action against a nation state.
Wow. Thanks for sharing, Andy. All right. In the interest
Topical
of
news.
time, any other wins before we jump to Amanda?
I had a little one.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
a
No, glad to
yeah.
hear, Andy.
I got a classic fake email from our domain. You have a new voicemail message. Act on this promptly so you don't miss anything. And it was nicely formatted. And what was nice about it is I wrote a blog on it because it's something I can use to show customers. It was blocked because it failed DMARC. So it was a pretty basic kind of attempt to get us to click on something. But what the thing that was nice about it and what made it a win, I got to write a little blog on it, and because it was such a little classical case, you could show to. It's an excuse to show to customers, see, these happen all the time, but if you block them, you're not going to get them.
Great job, Ann.
That's a good win, Ann. And
Yeah.
since you write a blog and people read it, that becomes a big win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you do a great job with that stuff, Ann.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Miss Amanda.
Yep, my update is really quick as well. Let me hit share. All right, so you should see analysis.
Yes.
We do.
Okay, great. So we have updated where possible the Microsoft events for email forwarding rules. So forwarding rule changed, forwarding rule deleted, forwarding rule created. When possible, we are pulling in as much detail as possible about the rule. So you'll see that all of the rules will start, all the description details will start with inbox email processing rule, and then it'll give you the name, and then it'll be followed by has been, and then either enabled, changed, or deleted by, and then it'll give you the account, and then it'll give you the description. So the description is actually what the rule is doing. So if my name is in the to box, take the following actions, copy the message to the following folder, deleted items. So you will get the details of what that forwarding rule is doing. There's some caveats where we can't always capture this. If someone were to create it and delete it within, a minute or two of each other, it doesn't get enough time for us to grab the details before it's deleted. So in those circumstances, you'll still get the inbox email processing rule blah has been deleted, because unfortunately it's not there for us to grab. But when available for us to grab, all these events will be enhanced to have this information now.
Great job. You're getting a lot of yays on this.
Yeah, really great job. I have to point out that this is something that Amanda and the team have been working on for a long, long time, and it has been a long and difficult journey. You would think that Microsoft would make this information available through the Graph API in a nice compact little format that you could just pull a single event and it has everything in it. This requires, multiple callbacks to different data sources in order to stitch this together and make it look like one compact little thing. So great job, Amanda. Like, I didn't even know that we were announcing this today. I've been so head down on other things, and this just made my day.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, like, if there's a rule, there's an event that you can't really match because we don't have the details at the time of the event being plugged in. Reminder that everybody, we have the report now that shows per account all their rules and what date that was last synced by. So you'll obviously know which account it is for and which organization. So you can run that report and then you can look up what rules they have if there's a rule you're suspicious about.
Awesome.
I have
Super
a
handy when
question.
you're prospecting as well, because we've seen guys during prospecting see one user that likes to use dashes and dots as their username. So you're forewarned about that nonsense before walking in.
Hey, Anthony, there's a question in chat that I think is aimed right squarely at you.
Absolutely. Does SaaS Alerts offer training we can use for new employees? Yeah, reach out to your account manager, reach out to me directly. The platform evolves, case in point, all the time. We may have gotten acquired by the big K, but our foot has never come off the gas. We constantly are developing new things. And now that we've got access, thank you, our new chief product officer, access to data from all the other SKUs that Kaseya has access to, we've got a massive data set and we're doing a ton of really interesting stuff with that. And you'll continue to see that evolve. So if it's ever time to do a level set, if it's like, hey, let's get the whole team together for a lunch and learn, give me a shout. give your account manager a shout. I've helped train up some of the Kaseya guys. Some of these guys actually know their stuff now. No, there's some really good, talented people here above and beyond me who are happy to spend the time to make sure you're getting full value out of the platform.
Yeah. And we've got thousands at this point of knowledge base articles that take you through specific training of modules and sectors, from going all the way back to the beginning of SaaS Alerts when we were monitoring 25 events for a couple of different, a couple of different products, right up through hundreds of hours of Ben video, our um, office hours that Anthony runs bi-weekly. So there's a ton of information, and if you need more beyond that, definitely just reach out either to your account manager or Anthony directly.
Yeah, and if you want to get up and close and personal with Chip and Ben, come to Write a Boom, get SaaS Administrator certified.
Oh yeah, that's right. The first certification coming up.
And get pictures of Leron signed also with every certification completion as you leave. So those are going to go quick. There's only 15 or 20 glossies of Leron available. All right.
Got a couple more hands up there, Andrew.
What do we got? They're not showing up for me. Who's
Rich
up?
Kennedy?
Rich.
So on the email rules, can they pull them from the person who's setting the rules up on their Microsoft account on their device? We usually have to go through extra steps to dig for those rules in the exchange, like in the exchange portal. Are you guys using some of those tools to kind of pull them from the users when they set it up in their Outlook or something like that?
Yep. So Rich, if it's a completely client-side rule, there's no way for us to see that at the moment. Because those don't sync back, right? It's literally running on the device, and it's not necessarily an inbox rule that's a pre-processing rule. Client-side rule is a post-processing rule that is only impacting that specific device.
All right. Thank you.
Just keep in mind, majority of the attacks, I would say, aren't client side like that.
No, they're not.
So if you're playing the numbers, right?
Yep. So Corey, that's a great point to bring up. The reason that Amanda and the team built this, Rich, is because one of the common things that we see happen when an account does get compromised is one of the first things that happen is people go and create rules. And it's been difficult to provide all of those details of what those rules are. And now that you have both this real-time reporting and then the report of everybody's individual rules that Amanda's team has built, you've got visibility into that.
Yeah, that's great, because the first thing we do is it's a hot button with our techs. As soon as they see an email rule, we jump on it to kind of make sure it's not one of those, type of violation rules. So.
Yep.
All right. So Corey, I want to give you, can you give a summation, do you feel, in about 4 or 5 minutes, so I can give Leron's going to do a kind of an in-service today on AI that's going to be pretty awesome. So I want to give him the floor, but can I set the stage for you and kind of just do a quick update on SonicWall? Because I think it's important.
Of course.
Just real quick. So let me set the stage and turn it over to you. First stage, setting the stage is CISA came out with this following Corey's update last week about credentials being compromised. He'll share with you that CISA doesn't always get things correct. And then I do want to give a huge shout out to Corey and the folks at SonicWall. Chip and I talk about this all the time about transparency. This is their incident. They talk specifically and literally give really nice images, graphical images. Hey, you should be concerned if it looks like this, and you shouldn't be concerned if it doesn't look like this. They're very straightforward, unlike some others that we've talked about throughout the year. So yeah, Corey, great job on this, being, as transparent as possible. But CISA didn't, let me hand it to you. CISA didn't do you guys any favors.
No, they created more people questioning us and our transparency. That's the key term, right? I mean, I've obviously sat in everybody on here shoes that are MSPs. We were an MSSP before SonicWall acquired us, and I had to deal with a lot of these vendor compromises. I mean, a lot of people knew me as the Cylance guy back in the day, and I can't tell you how many issues I've been through with Cylance and had to go to my customers and explain what's going on, or I have to put my hands on things. And you know, I could tell you SonicWall had a history of not being as transparent when something like this happened. Their communication methods were always questionable. But I'll tell you, since I've been working for them going on 2 years, there's been significant changes for stuff like this. You know, transparency is obviously huge, especially in an incident where we have a lot of people mad at us because now we're asking you to spend 45-ish minutes per device as a proactive approach. Well, you can look at it as reactive and proactive. There's still no confirmed compromises associated with this, but you know, it as super precautionary to be proactive. We don't want it to come to that, plain and simple. And so it's going to be difficult, right? Imagine if you had 300 firewalls under your management, and you know, it's hard to put out there like, yes, I recommend. So we've actually held what's called office hours, which is the first time we've done this. And I've seen anybody done this, where every Monday now we're opening up an hour-long meeting for all of our partners. Join it. Ask whatever questions you want. So you're not relying on Reddit. You're not trying to weed through emails. Any updates you might want, you get it direct from the horse's mouth. So we're hosting these every Monday, like clockwork, which I can tell you is fun when you have like over 500 participants all asking questions. First one was fun, that's for sure. So we have to remember with the whole CISA thing, and I can tell you we've gone back to CISA twice and said, hey, this is inaccurate. There wasn't an attack on the mysonicwall.com platform, which has so much more repercussions to that, right? Or things that have to be modified. That's not what was attacked. It was the API service that was attacked to the backups, not mysonicwall.com. And unfortunately, they haven't changed it yet. And so this also opened my eyes, like, man, I've always trusted CISA, right? So why would I not believe them? And I get it. I get our partner's perspective. Well, CISA is saying this, so they must know something that you're not telling us. It's not it. So this is the hard part. And, you know, as I've sat on my soapbox ever since the Akira targeted, I've talked to everybody in here about Akira targeting firewalls and the issues behind SSL VPNs. And, you know, we're still trying to get information out there, and I'm recommending people touch every firewall, even if it's not on our list of known potentially compromised firewall backup files. You should still touch every firewall. It's going to suck, but it's the best thing that you can do to be proactive, because I'm still seeing it. I'm still dealing with compromises happening. I'm looking at firewall configs and they just don't make sense to me. You know, why would you pay for a front door with a alarm on it, with a deadbolt on it, but you never set that deadbolt and you never set that alarm? Yeah, you own it, but you're not using it. So it's important to go back, and it's a bigger problem. People don't typically audit their security services in general. Once you implement it, you think it's good, cool, you move on to something else, and you never really go back and audit what you have in place, to include if you've done any modifications in the SaaS alerts portal. There's constantly updates as we see of things changing. So maybe if you lower the severity, you know, manually of one of the alerts that SaaS alerts triggered because it was too noisy or whatever, you might want to go back in and look at it, because technology advances and there's new settings.
Corey, I'll just end it with this, and then we'll go to Liron. Is like a common thing too with third-party vendors is, you know, we saw this a lot where, you know, as the MSP dealing with their customer, well, there's maybe a banking application or a third-party application that they don't have access to, and their customer support says, well, we need, you know, a certain port open for us to do something, and those ports are never closed back up. And that happens those things happen. To your point, there's got to be auditing, there's got to be a monitoring, you know, so. Yeah. All right. Thanks for that. Liron, thanks for coming on. I'm excited about this. This is something that you mentioned a few weeks back that I think is going to be really important for everybody to learn about. So I'll let you have the floor.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to share my screen momentarily. All right. Can you all see my slides?
Not yet. There we go.
Yes,
All
now
right. So this is a presentation I initially did for our development team as we gather our thoughts and start really leaning into AI practices. And Andrew reached out after I said some things and was like, "Hey, can you present this?" So I modified it slightly to make it more MSP-ish, but it does tend to lean a little bit technical. So I'll be looking forward to getting your feedback. And so this is kind of the way that we look at the world of AI. So the big thing in our world, right, is vibe coding. This guy, Andre Karpathy, came up with the term vibe coding. I think he's one of the original OpenAI developers, and that term kind of took off. And if you've played around with Lovable or any of the sort of agentic development platforms, you are vibe coding. But if you've done that long enough and you've spent, say, 50, 60, 70 hours in there, and I was talking to a friend of mine who was doing this, and she said, well, after doing it for 50, 60 hours, I build my new feature, but then this other feature breaks, and then you start playing this whack-a-mole game. And that's kind of what happens with vibe coding, and that's kind of when we started running into. And so we started adjusting the way that we do things and kind of came up with this new term called, instead of vibe coding, it's agent orchestration engineering. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So the other thing that I think is important to recognize when considering AI is we're in the like mechanical computer days at this point from an AI technology standpoint. And when people pick these things up, they kind of expect the iPhone, which is probably a million times faster than this monstrosity over here, right? And it's not even the 1990s computer that some of us grew up with in our houses. It's this piece of paper with zeros and ones. That's kind of where we are today. And if you contextualize that into the technology adoption curve, right? We're over here. We're at the innovator stage. And what we need to get to is the Apple One. And that is Steve Wozniak over here, who is kind of the guy who connected the typewriter to a computer and connected a TV to that typewriter and put everything together. And that really is the birth of the computer that we know and use today, right? It's a combination of these different technologies. And so we're here and we need technology to advance and take us from the electromechanical computer to the PC that we know today. And so how do we do this? We do it by innovation, right? First of all, smaller form factors. Somebody's going to invent the keyboard equivalent of AI and the TV and RAM and the hard drive and the mouse. And when you combine all these different technologies together, we end up with the dominant design that we kind of have today. And so to me, the important thing to understand is there is this curve. It is applicable to almost every technology that I can think of, and that we're very much in the early days. But most people, when they interact, they expect the fully formed iPhone, and we're just not there yet. So why is this important? I'm exaggerating a little bit, right? 6-year-olds are not really building $50 million apps, but we're really not that far off from that. And executives and customers, they're reading these things and they're like, oh, hey, like, yeah, build me a $50 million business over the weekend. Like, it should be a breeze, right? And I don't really see this as a trend, right? I think there's a bubble, and I think the bubble is taking place because people are expecting the iPhone and they're realizing it's not really quite that just yet. People have to figure out how to actually turn these things into useful tools, and that's kind of what's happening right now. So what does that mean for us? It means that we need to adapt. And if you look at history, right, steel is better than bronze, and those who adopted steel weapons ended up faring better. The longbow is better than the sword. Tanks are better than cavalry. And the way that I look at it is that AI is the F-47 or the sixth generation fighter. And I'll get into that shortly. GitHub CEO said, in the future, developers will not code. They will manage AI. And I've talked to Chip about this. I've talked to many, many other smart, brilliant people, and it is out in the public. And that is very much what I see the future is. And so how does this apply to MSPs? I think in the future, we and you are all managing agents that are doing things and you're training them. And that is the sort of thing that we're thinking about building. So another really interesting corollary is I mentioned the 6th generation fighter, right? And this is kind of a depiction of one, but notice the wingmen here. These things are drones, they're AI, and the human over here is orchestrating these other things, right? So we're talking about the future of work and code is managing AI and MSPs managing agents that are doing things for them inside the RMM, inside of SaaS alerts and everything else. This is very much real for and is being built right now as the future weapon platform in the military. So I like to look at history, right? There's many, many cautionary tales for us to look at. All of these companies failed to adapt, and some of you on this call may not even know what some of these things are. And there's a reason for that, right? They failed to adapt. So all of this sounds really great, but if AI is so great, why hasn't it solved all my problems yet? And I think the reason is it's because we're here. This piece of paper with zeros and ones solved like 7 people in the world's problem. And then there was innovation and adoption, and now grandma is playing video games with her grandchildren, and everyone's having a good time. And that is very much over here on the right-hand side. All right, so the technology needs to mature, it needs to adapt. So pulling this back to the MSP world, what are MSPs doing, right? And this is an overly simplified thing I quickly threw together. Like you're on this call because you know how to manage context, client relationships, strategic planning, the finances, the accounting, the books, sales and marketing, service delivery, managing the teams. All right, so and so disrespected so and so. You have to go deal with that. There's so much context for you to have to deal with and manage on a day-to-day basis. And one of the challenges that AI has today, this very early version, zeros and ones on a piece of paper sort of AI, is it has a limited context into what is happening, right? And so your brains as MSPs, you're balancing all these things together at any given moment in time. On this call right now, you typically know what the next thing that you need to go work on is. So the large language models today don't have this, right? In the LLM world, we look at things in terms of tokens. You have all these tokens, and that's basically all the knowledge that takes place. And because the token window is limited at any given point in time, you are not looking at the complete picture the way that your MSP human brains do when you look at your business, right? And that is part of the reason why we're just not there yet from a technology standpoint. And when I have to explain this to my mom and my dad in order to like, well, what are you working on? Like, what is it that you do? And I try to explain this to people. The analogy that I use is imagine a human being that was born 30 seconds ago, and you give him a straw and you have him look at the ocean. They're going to see this and they're going to have no idea what this is. All right. And if we bring that into the world of agents in the future and what we're talking about, this is a theoretical, right, scenario where we have some code and the context window is limited to 200,000, which is what Claude Sonnet 4 is limited to, I believe. And so when you're looking at a code that is 1,000,000 tokens, you're only looking at 20% of the code at any given point in time. And that is why stupid things tend to happen. You end up rewriting the same functions and the thing just, you fix this thing over here and this thing over there breaks instead. And as a point of reference, right, a mature SaaS application has roughly 3 million lines of code. And so 3 million lines of code, that's in the order of 40 to 70 million tokens. And ChatGPT 5 has a context window of 400,000. So we are nowhere near close to be able to holistically look at what is actually taking place. And so what is the solution for this? The solution for this is context engineering. You have to engineer the context in order to point that straw exactly where you want it to. And the way that context engineering looks in practice is imagine my 30-second-old human being that is looking through a straw at the ocean, and I say, hey, you're a human, you live on the planet that you live on is called Earth. Earth has oceans, they contain water, right? I'm passing maybe 50, 70 tokens here. But when you are looking through that straw and you're looking through here, now all of a sudden you actually know what it is you're looking at. So the way that this translates to in the development world is we have to engineer the context. And what I found fascinating when I found out and got into this is when you talk to ChatGPT, for instance, every single time you send a message through, the payload that gets sent over to ChatGPT is the entire message history every single time you do it, which is why you start a chat early on and it does an amazing job remembering everything that's taken place. But if you've ever had a monstrously long chat, you eventually end up being like, I've already told you this. Why don't you understand that? And it's because the context window has been exceeded and it just doesn't understand. So either you have to find a way to work in tiny context windows, which works if you're doing tiny little things, but most of us are working on highly complex projects, right? When you have a problem with one of your customers, you have to go look at like 12 different applications, look at 2 or 3 years worth of history to actually determine what's taken place, what the problem is, and what the actual solution is. And the context window just is not there. And so how do we deal with this? We deal with this by engineering the context. And the way that it looks on the development side of the house, and GitHub recently released something they call, and so things like this existed before, but when GitHub released it a couple weeks ago, I considered that mainstream for developers. And so first you have your project instructions, right? That's kind of the bottom of your pyramid. And then you have a business overview, a technology overview, right? So like, this is what my application does. This is my tech stack. This is how files are organized. And these are what we typically refer to as our steering documents. And then you have your specific project and what it is you're trying to accomplish, right? So our product team is currently working on processizing all of this right now, so that I had a meeting with Amanda this morning. She needs to write up some new requirements. She's going to use AI to write up the project requirements, the design, and the tasks. And so if you recall what I said before, which is every message you send to the LLM contains the entire history. So every message that you send to the LLM is now going to contain this context, which is equivalent to this human metaphor that I used before, where now you actually have the context, right? This is the project that we're working on, all the way from that to the specific bullet point task that you're trying to achieve. And so within that 200,000, let's say, token window that you're playing with, you're eating up maybe 1,000 or 2,000 tokens to give it the context necessary so that it can do the job, right? So that is context engineering. And you saw my slide, right, about the Industrial Revolution. And if you look at history, this has always happened, right? People used to make these things by hand, and it took a week to create one of these cotton-looking sheets things. And then the cotton gin comes out, and the people that used to do this in the old way, either they adopted or they were out of jobs. And so those who can't learn from history, right, are doomed to repeat it, which is why we're looking at and leaning into this and trying to understand, how do we leverage these technologies? We understand we're early in the game, but it's better to get in early, in my opinion. And another lesson from history, if you guys know, there's the legend of John Henry, who was a steel driver, and then the steam drill came out and they wanted to race, and John Henry was the guy, right? And so what they would do is there'd be a pick, and he would use the hammer and he would drive it into the stone for mining. And there was a race, and John Henry ended up winning. And the legend has it that even though he won, his heart gave out and he died when this happened, right? Which is kind of like, you can fight it, you can fight technology, but you can only fight it for so long. So pulling all of this back and contextualizing it in the context of MSPs, if you think about what you do with a new hire, you're probably on Microsoft Teams and you send a message to the new hire and you're like, hey, I need you to go do this. And that person will reach back out to you and say, okay, like, who's the customer name? And where do I go get the customer information? Go to Autotask, take a look at Autotask, right? Like, what you're actually doing in that conversation is you are context engineering for that new person. But because that person has a brain, their context window is huge as compared to LLMs, which have a finely limited context window. And so I believe what the future looks like in our world is the human, the MSP, is the pilot, and the same way that you talk to teams today, to some of your people, you will be talking to agents, and you will be telling the agents what to do. These agents, once you tell them what to do, the same way that you talk to a human and tell that human what to do kind of one time and say, hey, your job is to handle all the inbound tickets. Maybe you over here, you're the forgot password guy. Anytime one of our customers forgets a password, your job is to deal with that. So now this thing has been given its rule set. It knows what to do. You've shown it how to do it, and it is off and operating on its own. And anytime you want to go and you want to ask it questions like, hey, what did you accomplish yesterday? Or it knows to raise exceptions to you, right? So it's going to handle 95% of the workload, and that 5% it's going to bring to you. So I think another big word in the AI world is orchestration. The MSP is the orchestrator, and these AI agents, you train them to go do something, and they go and they do it for you. So that's kind of the difference between context engineering. And I want to give you a real world example of prompt engineering so that you kind of get the difference, and give you a tangible example you can walk out of here with and maybe do something useful with it. So I work in product, right? So a lot of the things that I do involve building new products. So what I did was I created this custom chat GPT. I don't know why it's switching like that. My hands were literally off the keyboard.
It was the AI.
Yeah, probably was shit. So I created this custom chat GPT, and I basically told it, you are Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, but I wanted to engineer the context a little bit, right? I went beyond that. And so I told it something like, go find all the open source material these guys have ever said, and that is the knowledge that you're using. And so rather than letting the LLM decide what Steve Jobs and Bill Gates will say, I'm limiting its source of information, ideally to the words that actually came out of these guys' mouths. And so when I build products, I ask them questions, and I'll say, hey, Steve, what do you think of this design? Or, hey, Steve, take this design and bring it to your most elite design team and give me a better version of that. Right? And Bill Gates always chimes in with these like nerdy, like technology stack architecture type things. And it's an interesting kind of exercise to go through. Now, I also want to let you guys know I'm not crazy enough to believe that I'm actually talking to Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. I know it's not the real thing, but it's the closest that I'm ever going to get realistically. And then if you take a look at what I've done here is I said, Steve, Bill, I have to present to a group of 50 MSPs about AI. I'm going to demo you. Please say hi and provide a short message to our MSPs about what the future holds for them regarding AI. Steve Jobs. Hi, everyone. I'm thrilled you're here. The future of AI isn't just about efficiency or automation. It's about reimagining the experience your customer have with technology. As MSPs, you're in a unique position. You don't just deliver services. You shape how small and mid-sized businesses think about technology. AI will become invisible, woven into the background, but it will amplify human creativity, intuition, and impact. Your opportunity is to elevate the human experience by simplifying complexity and delivering tools that feel almost magical to your clients. Like that to me sounds like something that Steve Jobs would say and helps me do my job. And then Bill Gates, hello, and thank you for being part of this important conversation. AI is the most powerful tool we've seen since the advent of the personal computer. I would say it's more important, but we'll agree to disagree, Bill. For MSPs, it means much greater scalability, smarter operations, and new value-added services. You can help businesses leverage AI to cut costs, improve security, and make better decisions with data they have. There's a chance to move up the value chain from being primarily service providers to become trusted advisors, guiding companies through this AI-driven transformation. The ones who adapt will quickly set the pace for the next decade. And so my takeaway for you guys is you don't necessarily have to do what I did and make Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, but you can take whoever you think and build an advisory board of those individuals and get their input on what it is you're building. And then the last thing I will say is when I got into all this, I wanted to actually measure, like, is this tool actually useful? If I build things with AI, is the juice worth the squeeze? So what I did was I'm using Cloud Code, and I said, review all my work since the beginning of this project, then benchmark against how long it would take a team not using AI to do this. So to make a long story short, the answer was in 550 hours, you did what it would take a team 15,000 to 20,000 hours, and that's a 27x to 37x productivity multiplier. So I feel like when you're using these tools properly, you're looking at 10, 20, 30x multiplier. And that is the sort of technology that we cannot ignore and must adapt to using, because if we don't, somebody else will. Questions, comments?
Well, there's some comments already that you've taught people more in 10 minutes about.
So Liron, I'll ask a question that I already know the answer to, but I want to hear your answer to folks on this call. So, over the course of the last couple of years with the Saa y Call, we talk a lot about things like tabletop exercises and business continuity and planning and policy management for customers. And I think that's a task that a lot of MSPs always look at and say, man, this is challenging. It takes a lot of time. How do you see, how much value do you see in people using AI to actually create and templatize all that sort of manual, deep grind thinking work that has to be customized on a per client basis?
That's a great question, and I'll give you an analogy. The way that we used to build product was Adam, me, Amanda. We used to have to write these documents that and then put together wireframes and then present those to the dev team. And so what we do now instead is we use Teams, we record the transcript, and we speak in a different sort of way, right? We speak in a way that is, we know that our transcription is going to be fed to an AI. And so we're kind of more deliberate. We kind of speak in an outline sort of format with one another, but it's still very much a natural human conversation. And then we take that transcript and then we feed it to our AI of choice and we say, write me a product spec from this. And then we take that and we can even feed it templates and examples of how we like it done. And that becomes the issue that we hand to the developers, and think of the amount of time that it saves. So what I would do in that situation, Chip, is I would record some of these meetings. Depending on your state and the legal situation, you may need to legally let people know. Tell them you're not going to use their information by any means. Take those transcriptions, feed them to your AI tool of choice, and say, convert this into a Q&A format for me. And your job is to basically help a tabletop exercise for a customer, build a custom agent similar to this one, roll it out to your customers and say, hey, you don't need to talk to me about this. Go talk to this AI agent and it will walk you through the tabletop exercise. And you can even prompt the AI here and for the instructions and tell it what the expected output that you want out of that is, right? Customer name, biggest challenges, biggest pain points, biggest opportunities, so that when that conversation is over, you just end up with exactly the output that you're looking for.
Yeah, I love the answer. And I'd take it one step further and say, when you go out to do that on-site meeting with a new client or even existing client for this kind of heavy conversational stuff, and your end goal is to write up a project plan or proposal, make sure somebody on your staff is joining that meeting via Teams, record it, and do exactly what Leaderon said. Feed it into an AI with the prompt, hey, I need you to turn this conversation with my customer into a full-blown proposal with amount of hours that it's going to take and what the highest priorities, rank everything from high to medium to low, and you'll be stunned because a lot of folks dread that part of the process. They like talking to their customers, but going back and spending 6 hours with a Word document to put something together is what drives you crazy, and you can cut that down to minutes.
100% agreed, right? Another thing that we started using on the dev team here is whenever AI tells you something, ask it, what is your level of confidence with this assertion? It's going to come back and it'll tell you 75%, 85%. And then you come back and you ask it, what do you need to get to 100? And it's going to tell you something like, well, I need these 6 other things, right? So take exactly what Chip just said. And after you have 1, 2, or 3 of these things, go back to it and say, like, what's your level of confidence with my ability to successfully deliver? Or what do you think we need to do to be successful from a cybersecurity standpoint, customer, whatever standpoint? And it's going to give you some feedback, and that's going to give you something to think about so that the next time you do it, you can improve and you can get better. All right, I can't see the questions in chat, and I know we have 2 minutes left.
Mostly we're getting comments. I got a kick out of one. Matt Olin asked, is anyone using N8N and AI? Matt, I got a kick out of that because the SaaS Alerts team is heavily using AI and the data engine and have automated absolutely mountains of workloads in the back end. And those things also flow over into Rocket Cyber and KSIM. So, we're way, way, way down this path. Liran has completely overhauled the engineering practices in our team. And anyone that's been with us for, since the beginning, Andy Rowe, maybe you might be one of the best people to call this out. Like our pace of innovation has dramatically increased. The number of new features and enhancements that we've rolled out in the past 6 months is, I'm going to guess, close to double what was the previous 18 months. And I think that's the impact that we're seeing here, that you guys can bring that kind of scale to your businesses and the tasks that take the most time that you like to do the least.
Liran, really appreciate you doing this, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. I really enjoy this, and I feel like it's a tool, and I hope that you guys can walk out of here with at least one or two things that will make your business and your lives better.
It was awesome. Anthony, how long before this gets posted?
It should be up on the web on YouTube by this time tomorrow. It should be on our Discord server by this time tomorrow.
Awesome. Thanks a million, guys. I'd love to watch this again. So, Liran, thanks so much. Thanks everybody for tuning in as always. Chip, great to see you.
You
Great to see
too.
everybody out there. Corey, thanks for jumping on as well. Wishing you all a fantastic week. Take care.
Stay safe, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.